I mean, something I wanted to talk a little bit about is this live electronic thing. I mean, I know we've kind of had this conversation a few times, and we've been in sort of live electronic acts.
Yep.
What's your approach to live electronics, and I guess what's the creative process around that? You know, how much is improvising and how much is just pressing play?
You always have to press play to get the sequences going.
That's true.
So I have to do that because everything is still synced together. But essentially, if I'm getting ready for a live show, I'm writing 3 parts basically: a MIDI bass line that I like, a MIDI lead line I like, and a MIDI kind of effects that I like as well. And then get a rough idea of some sounds that I save as patches on the hardware. So I've kind of got 3 things I know that are in tune and work together harmoniously or melodically. And then all my drums is a separate thing. I'm just writing drum patterns. So then when I do the live show, I'm triggering those off, and then kind of depending on my mood and what I want, it could be a house drum pattern I put under there, or an electro drum pattern, or a dubstep drum pattern. And then just tweaking the hell out of the synths as well to kind of also reflect that. So, I mean, I did about a year of piano training, but I really can't play keys. I can kind of muck my way around a keyboard, so I do all that that side of it in advance. But then, like the last show I did, the 808 and 909 started basically from a cleared state when I start, so just load all the programs in the 16-step or tap them in, because drums I can program pretty quickly.
I mean, that's the thing that interests me, is that from an electronic point of view, you're probably one of the most live electronic things that I've seen, because a lot of the times you just run from a few patterns and then will do a full set and improvise and create rhythms on the fly.
Basically, I guess I kind of have a couple of loops. You know, I might have 6 loops pre-set up or something like that, and then that's, what is it? It's not even a minute's worth of audio probably, or a minute's worth of music I've got sorted out. So the rest of the hour-long set is basically how I'm getting from one loop to another loop to another loop to another loop to another loop. And I think that also then ties in a lot for my for the DJing I've done, because I almost view the live show as DJing with just those tiny little loops. But it was the other thing, it would have been, and we looked at doing it for other stuff. It'd be a lot easier to do what a lot of guys are doing with Ableton, is you're writing the track first and then splitting it up into all your stems and throwing it into Ableton and performing it that way. But I wanted something that was literally, it was going to be live, mainly to keep my interest on it. So it's a bit hair-raising when I do a show, because there isn't a whole lot of preparation behind it. But also then it's got to be something unique for anybody who comes and listens as well, because I couldn't do the same show twice. And
there's pretty much a guarantee that you wouldn't have played one of your songs the same ever that I've
I guess you can spot, because I use an occasional vocal sample, that's probably the only thing you'll identify as the standard track, because I did one I played last Thursday and then the Friday before that, and I had some of the same tracks, and the MIDI sequence was possibly the same one I used, but it would have been completely different drums underneath it, and some of them were completely different synth patches as well.
Let's go back to from production to DJing, because I'd just be interested to know a little bit about your approach to DJing. I mean, I've seen you when you played. You can do like hip hop cuts. Your kind of the genres that you touch on it's kind of a wide range of different stuff. Did it all start with vinyl for you? That was
and I even remember back again as a kid raiding my father's vinyl collection as well. I had a little turntable in my room that I'd just play around with, and but after I got basically my first Technics and a mixer, I think the first year or two would have been probably mixing a lot of hip hop and stuff like that, and I used to watch a lot of the DMC and the battle videos and the turntablism and that side of it, because it was always fascinated me. It was these guys taking these little elements and making tracks and stuff out of it. So from that side of it, guys like Qbert would have been highly influential in what I did, in that he was just making tracks and doing the drums and stuff like that out of it. So even then, when I was playing like the filter brats, the house group were doing and stuff like that, we used to set it up so that we'd have just the double DJ setup, and then one would be mixing generally house, and I'd be scratching over top of it. And then from there, Clayton also started picking up the scratching side of things as well, and was doing the same thing.
Right.
But for a couple of years, you know, for I think just where I was, and my brother was kind of around, and we would just like heaps after school every night we'd go up and just play records for a couple of hours and then crash. So I guess that was the, you know, when I started DJing proper with DJ equipment, it would have been all pretty much hip hop, a lot of Wu-Tang and stuff like that.
Right. And when did that move into electronic stuff then?
I guess while I was still doing that, I mean, I was still coming across these odd records that were, I guess, were probably happy hardcore. Looking back, I might still have some of them, like Scooter records and stuff like that. So what we're doing, you know, when I was playing house parties, you were playing a track where you were playing House of Pain, and then you would have a Scooter tune, and it would just be absolutely all over the place, because I don't think anyone at that point kind of had this idea that you had to have that same genre or progression the whole way through a night. It was just record and this record and this record, and now I want to play this record, and it would have been pretty chaotic. But so it was that, I guess it was that sort of stuff. Chemical Brothers stuff would have been there. I remember just before I went over for a trip over to London, I had a mate who was doing sound off competitions with cars. And he gave me a CD of these guys who he reckoned was always wicked for the competitions because there's copious amounts of bass in it. And it was first Prodigy album. So I listened to that, loved it, and then when I was over in London, I was basically buying every bit of Prodigy vinyl and CD and single that I could. And when I got back, they'd just played, I think, at Big Day Out or one of the or something. That was suddenly it was all about Prodigy, and I had a record bag full of Prodigy records. So that was quite good timing on that.
Cool.
And then just, I guess, it's just been progressed. I've always been looking for just different sounds, or I kind of get bored of particular genres or particular sounds pretty quickly, so I'm always just looking for something new sonically to come through.
Because that's something I've seen, you know, the styles of music that you've written and that you play are pretty broad ranging. Is that just a boredom thing, or like an interest in all these different things? Or
I guess I like experimenting on different things, but at the same time I also think that everything I write is generally techie and minimal, but that could be techie and minimal hip hop, or it could be techie and minimal dubstep, or techie and minimal house or techno or anything. It's a particular genres for me, or what I've always looked for in sound is a particular feeling and emotion, and that's probably more important to me than what BPM it is or the beat structure that's underneath it.
Has that made it sort of difficult to sort of fit into a scene that's based around certain specific genres of music?
Yeah, and it has, because it's you know, I mean, even though you know, a multi-genre event now is, if it's kind of house stuff, is house and deep house and funky house and filtered house and all the different subgenres of house. You don't have as much, you don't see as many sets that go all over the place. There's a few more coming back now, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's been, and it also kind of tied into that whole alias thing as well, because I was doing so many different things all over the place. It was really hard, and probably still is, for anyone to kind of follow that path along as to where my sound is and what I'm kind of doing.
Right.